It's funny, isn't it? Everyone has a middle manager story.
Oh, absolutely.
Some are great.
Right.
Others, well, let's just say we've all had a Mr. Burns moment at some point.
Definitely.
And that's what got me thinking when you sent this article over. How can middle managers rebuild their value in this era?
Yeah.
It's about how the digital age is changing things, especially for management.
Yeah, it really digs into how management is changing, especially in this fast-paced digital world.
And they use this example of Mr. Wang, this manager who's the classic middleman.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Between the higher-ups and their team.
Exactly. And he had this very hands-off approach, which the article calls being a router.
Interesting.
At first I thought, okay, maybe he's just good at delegating. But it gets more complicated.
I see. How so?
The article mentions his younger employees felt a bit lost, like he wasn't helpful. But here's the thing. Mr. Wang thought he was doing them a favor.
Really?
He thought by backing off, he was letting them learn on their own.
That's fascinating. It's about how differently people view the same situation.
Exactly. And it shows how some traditional management styles might be misunderstood. So Mr. Wang, our router manager, saw his job as passing information between his team and the people above him.
Right.
And it makes sense in a way.
It does.
Like before Slack and all that, someone had to be in charge of the information, right?
Yeah, middle managers used to be the keepers of all the knowledge.
Exactly.
They decided who knew what and when.
Which probably made them pretty powerful, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
But like you said, the digital age changed everything.
Completely. Information is everywhere now.
Right.
So just passing it along isn't that useful anymore.
It's true.
The article even says that being a router could disappear completely.
Wow, that's a scary thought for some managers, I bet.
I would think so.
Especially the ones who've always worked that way.
Definitely.
But it's got to be frustrating for their teams, too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially these days when everything moves so fast.
Yeah.
Imagine needing a quick answer on a project and being told to figure it out.
Right.
That hands-off style doesn't work anymore.
No.
Slows everything down.
Definitely. But the article also mentions that too much management can also be a bad thing.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance.
Right.
And the article does a great job explaining that more management isn't always the answer. Sometimes it can stifle creativity and make the team less effective.
Interesting. It's like that micromanaging thing, right?
Exactly. And digital tools have made micromanaging even easier, which can be dangerous.
So if managers shouldn't be micromanaging or just acting as routers, what should they be doing?
Well, the article offers some really interesting solutions for that, which we'll get into after this quick break.
So digital tools, they can be good and bad for middle managers, it seems.
Definitely. It's a two-sided coin.
On one side, they free up managers to do bigger picture stuff.
Right.
But the article also says making that change isn't always easy.
It's not. And one big thing is some managers aren't so good with the tech stuff.
Really? You'd think that wouldn't be an issue anymore.
You'd think so, but the article makes it clear it's a real problem.
Huh. Interesting.
It's not enough to just use the tools. You got to know how to use them well.
Right, like it's more than just sending emails and doing Zoom calls.
Exactly. It's stuff like understanding data, using project management software properly, even just fixing tech problems so you're not always asking your team for help.
Which actually puts them right back to being a router, like we talked about.
Exactly. Totally defeats the purpose.
It does. But besides that, there's also the challenge of old ways of managing not working so well when everyone's remote.
That's a big one. That old command and control style doesn't work so well when your team is spread out everywhere.
Yeah, gotta have trust.
You do. The article even talked about how some managers just can't stop micromanaging.
It's hard to let go sometimes.
It is, but in this new world, you gotta give your team space to do their thing.
So it's about finding that balance between being too involved and not involved enough.
Exactly. And the article says it's more about trust and working together even when you're not physically in the same place.
So all this considered, are middle managers done for?
Not at all. The main takeaway is they're not going away. Their job is just changing.
Okay, good to know. But how? What do these new middle managers even look like?
Well, they're less about just giving information and more about making sense of it.
So adding context, helping their teams see what's important.
Exactly. They bridge the gap between the higher-ups and what their team does every day. And they're great at building relationships, which is super important now.
It's like they're coaches, mentors, even therapists sometimes, it sounds like.
In a way. And the article really stresses the importance of empathy. being able to motivate and understand people. Those are the things that'll make a good manager stand out.
So it's less about being the boss and more about supporting your team?
Absolutely.
That's a pretty different picture of middle management than what we're used to.
It is. It's exciting.
It is. Hopefully those middle manager stories we talked about are a lot more inspiring from now on.
I think so. This new way of managing is a good thing.
Well, on that note, we'll leave everyone with this. Think about how much of that old router style is still in your work and what needs to change for the future.
It's something to think about.
It is. Thanks for exploring this with us today, everyone.